big week this week. The Cboe starting to trade contracts next week. How do you think that'll change the game?
Should be exciting. Again, never a dull moment in the Bitcoin world, right? I think it really makes Bitcoin legitimate now for the institutional buyers, as well as the regular retail people. I mean, believe it or not, it's still very hard to buy Bitcoin. You know, my father calls me all the time, how do I buy Bitcoin? And I'd rather not have to explain how to do the process. Now he can go do the futures exchange. It makes life a lot easier, actually. And the buyers now from institutions can all get into this now.
We also heard from Gary Cohn this week talking about these futures, which will start trading not just on the Cboe, but on the CME. Take a listen to what Gary Cohn had to say earlier.
The CFTC's approved a couple futures contracts. We'll see what effect that has. It will allow people the ability to short it. There's never been a transparent market in Bitcoin. We'll see what goes on here. It's an evolving market.
So, Cory, how do you think the market will evolve?
This is going to be really unusual. I don't know that we've ever had such a high level of interest in something with such a thin market. And the marketplace for Bitcoin is so thin. There's a great story in the Bloomberg Terminal today that talks about how 40% of the Bitcoin is owned by just a handful of people and doesn't really trade. So the trading is very thin. You're going to have options and futures based, not options, but futures based on this very illiquid market that's also not very opaque. We don't really know how the trading takes place. We don't know what the spreads is. The offers aren't posted as clearly as they are in other markets. So it could lead to some really unusual things. A small trader in Bitcoin can affect the price a lot. But right now, it's only one way. You can only buy it or sell it. You can't short it. You'll be able to short now using these futures contracts. So it's going to add a lot of leverage on top of a very thin market. Theoretically, it would reduce volatility. But in this practice, it might actually increase volatility, which is hard to imagine.
The IRS, Sonny, is asking questions.
Yep.
How does the tax issue play out?
That's still another issue that needs to be resolved. And, you know, people that have made capital gains on Bitcoin want to pay their taxes, actually. They're just looking for guidance. Don't. Well, you're still holding yours back. That's why.
Nobody wants to pay taxes. They're willing to pay taxes.
People want it, but it's hard to know the right rules. The accounting firms don't quite know what to do to advise these people. In the case of the Bitcoin futures, which is interesting, is the ability to short now, too. And it's not going to be, you know, it's going to roll out gradually. So a lot of the big participants in the banks are taking a wait-and-see approach for the next couple weeks or month or so. But eventually it opens the door for more of them to start getting more involved, which I think also opens the door for the ETF eventually. This really is the ground one, and now the ETF can really start coming into play pretty soon.
And what will that mean?
Then really opens up the door for a lot of retail buyers throughout the country. It's just like ETFs for gold and other platforms that are so easy to buy. You can buy from your E-Trade account and all the regular brokerages. And then my dad can definitely buy now.